As you can tell from the montage, yeah, Emre is pretty much Master Chief. Barrel rifle, check. Grenades, check. And the Siphon Blaster might as well be the Needler, but with health. Despite being a carbon clone of the Master Chief, in reality, Emre is a lot like Soldier 76, your well-rounded jack-of-all-trades kind of hero. Sure, he can be outplayed by other heroes, but he's so well-rounded that his versatility more than makes up for it. But the real kicker with his kit is that Siphon Blaster. Once upgraded, he can take fights he has no business in taking, so as long as you land your shots. The Synthetic Burst Rifle is a 3-round burst assault rifle, and it sits in the middle between Soldier's Pulse Rifle and Cassidy's Peacekeeper. Whilst you still should be landing your headshots with the Burst Rifle, it's not as punishing as the Peacekeeper, but like the Pulse Rifle, it is still incredibly versatile. The real kicker though is the scope. Scoping in increases your weapon's fall-off range, which means your damage stays more consistent at longer distances. So whilst the other mid-range heroes start tickling enemies once they're beyond farting distance, Emre is still putting out meaningful pressure.
Take one step on that rope and I'll cut it.
And because it's a burst rifle, headshots absolutely dismember enemies. His grenades are when you start seeing how flexible his kit really is. On paper, they seem simple. Throw explosive, damage enemy. Simple enough. But in practice, they massively expand the number of situations Emre can handle. For starters, they're excellent for finishing off weak enemies. If someone ducks behind cover with low health, most hit-scan heroes lose pressure immediately. Soldier 76, Cassidy, and even Soldier to some extent, once line of sight is broken, the enemy often escapes. The AoE of Helix rockets aren't that big, and whilst the Disruptor shot has a pretty big area of effect, it's on such a long cooldown that it's not always up when you need it. But Emre, he can just bounce a grenade around the corner and potentially secure the elimination anyway. It's not Junkrat levels of area denial, but it gives him far more options than most hit-scan DPS heroes. And the grenades also give him verticality. That's the bread and butter of his kit, which is incredibly important because high ground, like in Overwatch, like in Call of Duty, like in Battlefield, like in any first-person shooter ever, take the high ground.
Mine.
High ground gives you better sight lines, safer positioning, easier disengages, and more pressure. Low ground, on the other hand, might as well be the hospital waiting room. And thanks to grenade jumps, Emre can access angles and routes better than other ground hit-scan heroes simply can't. That means he can flank, take unexpected routes, appear in positions enemies aren't prepared for. And that leads nicely into the most unique part of his kit. The Siphon Blaster, also known as the pistol, is what truly separates Emre from the rest of the DPS roster, because the ability completely changes how he behaves in close range fights. It gives him sustain, mobility, survivability, and aggressive playmaking potential. The healing aspect alone makes him difficult to duel. It gives him sustain similar to Soldier 76's Biotic Field, except instead of standing still in a healing circle, Emre is rewarded for constantly moving. Your movement becomes erratic, you're jumping higher, moving faster, and flying all over the place like somebody turned gravity off. But what keeps it balanced is the heat mechanic. If you spam shots constantly, then the Siphon Blaster overheats and deactivates automatically. And that creates an interesting decision. Do you spam shots for maximum damage and healing, or do you pace your shots more carefully so the ability lasts longer? And in turn, use the hyper mobility more. But after putting so many hours into Emre, what makes the pistol so unique is that it changes the rules of close range fights. Most mid-range heroes in Overwatch 2, like Sojourn and Soldier 76, want distance, cover, and controlled engagements. But Emre can suddenly invert the fight because the Siphon Blaster rewards aggression instead of punishing it. A lot of DPS heroes tend to panic when the flanker closes the distance. Soldier 76 wants pacing, and Widowmaker practically explodes. But Emre, he can become more dangerous, so as long as you're landing your shots. Another huge point is that aggression creates survivability. Normally, when you take damage, you retreat, but with the pistol, dealing damage means healing, so aggression itself becomes defense. Most heroes survive by escaping danger. Emre survives by pushing further into it. And level 2 perk Heatsink makes this even more ridiculous. Heatsink is so powerful because it changes fight mathematics. Normally in Overwatch, longer fights are dangerous for DPS as they lack long-term sustain to stay in the fight. But Heatsink flips this. Why? Because there's more uptime, more healing, more shots, more movement. The longer the duel continues, the more dangerous Emre can become, so as long as you're landing your shots. A Siphon Blaster with Heatsink also lets him take bad fights. Normally, a Sombra or a Genji up in your grill is usually a bad fight, but Siphon Blaster creates enough sustain and chaos that fights that should be losing become winnable, so as long as you're landing your shots. However, what keeps heatsink balanced is that you need to land direct shots on the enemy. Without direct shots, you overheat, and in turn, you'll lose your pistol, and then you'll likely lose the fight. And I think the most interesting thing about Emre, he's basically a quasi jack of all trades hero. He has enough tools to function in almost every situation: close range, medium range, long range, so on and so forth. But there will almost always be another hero who surpasses him in a specific category. A Cassidy landing headshots will usually outduel him. Tracer, Genji, Bastion and Sombra can melt targets faster at closer range. Widowmaker and Jungler have stronger vertical control. Soldier 76 has more consistent mobility. Tracer has stronger burst movement. But Emre has enough of everything. Good range, good burst damage, good mobility, good survivability, good flanking, good verticality. He covers almost every base, and that flexibility makes him incredibly reliable. And once you unlock Heatsink, he's one of the best close range heroes in Overwatch, so as long as you're landing your shots. He can win fights he has no business in winning because of the refund mechanic. So, is Emre like Master Chief? Kind of. He covers a lot of bases a good soldier should have. He has good range, good flanking, good speed, good mobility, decent burst damage, and whilst he doesn't excel at any of those things, he's passable. And once you unlock Heatsink, he does become that living legend. Just make sure to land your shots. This is Zach, not Zach, signing off. Please remember to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe.